Good morning. Can you hear me? Am I okay? All right, these are new mics. We're trying them out. I'm George Johnson. I'm your facilitator. I'm also a STEM. Some of you are STEMs too. You know what a STEM is? That's somebody who specializes in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. These are your nerds, your geeks. Oncologists don't like us. You know why? Because we ask questions. And the questions tend to be why or why not. So we have a speaker today who's a STEM supplemented by a speaker who is not a STEM. There he is, Gene Van Vliet. See, he thinks differently than I do. See, we don't make the best husband either, because we're very rational. Why did you do that? Things like that. And so I bring this up because what I'm going to talk about is what's of interest to me. May not be true. How many STEMs do we have in the audience? Raise your hand. Oh boy, no wonder we have an intelligent group. Look at us. See? See, Gene? I got to mention that, you know, we get top doctors in here. And there's a reason they like coming here, because this is an impressive group to them. And they get to know you and get impressed by your questions. When they leave here, they go, wow, this is a very informed group. That's why the title of our group is Informed. And you ask good questions, and they're challenged. One of my doctors says, oh, I always have my assistant tell me when you're coming, because I better read your chart before you come, because you got all these questions. One of them, I no longer have him as my doctor, he said, where do you get these questions? As if I'm not competent to come up with my own. I must get them from somebody else or a book or something. But I want you to ask questions today. I want you to participate because our purpose today is to get you to talk. We got 4 microphones here we just bought. And I want to pass them out and have you ask questions or talk to each other and so forth. So you understand the drift of today. It's, we're going to have a group discussion, and that's the purpose. Okay, a little preamble. And you've been through this before, but there's a reason here, particularly for our newcomers. Okay, here are the guys that volunteer. And Gene's here, and I'm here. Bill Manning's back there. John Tasso is way up there. Steve, where are you, Steve? There's Steve. Bill Bailey. Where's Bill Bailey? He was here. Where is he? There he is. Yeah. Chuck Grimm and Jim. These are guys that have a desire to be of help, and they volunteer. If you get that itch, come see us. Okay, newcomer package. Everybody who's a newcomer, you get a package. Got a guy here who doesn't have one? All right. And in the white cover sheet. Okay, on the first page, fill it out for us. And Gene will give you a call, so if you got any questions, give you a welcome. And over here. And he won't bug you for money. I do that. We're a support group. We're here to help you manage your own case. And that's the theme of today's subject, helping you manage your case, because you got to manage it. However, what you hear and what we say here today is not a substitute for your doctor. What we hope you learn from today is questions to ask your doctor. Like, how about Firmagon? How about this? Why not that? And they will tend to say, yeah, we could do that. Do it respectfully. So we're not a substitute, but we're an assistant to you. We need your support. And let's pass out the baskets. And we're a nonprofit, tax deductible. We're not affiliated with any doctors, medicine, religious affiliation. So we got small baskets. Just pass them down the rows. Pass them down, and they're small baskets. So put big bills in them. We don't want to dip in our reserve here. It's not cheap to run this thing. Not because of our salaries. Our salaries are non-existent. Our benefits are great, though. We're here to support you, and we got a website. John is our webmaster. We got a library. Bill's the guy that keeps that up to date. We got some still bestsellers. The bestseller is the new book on prostate cancer, and it's from the guys up at the Prostate Oncologist Specialist up in Marina del Rey. Great book, very comprehensive. We got a newsletter, and that's done by Bill. And we have an outreach program. If you have a friend, get a brochure, pass it on to him. Your peers are at the age where they should be getting blood tests and PSAs, so remember to do that, tell them about it. And if you need a speaker to come to a Rotary or your church group, we can make that arrangements. And of course, you know about our monthly meetings. Okay, what we're going to do is a quick survey. How many are here for the first time? Raise your hand, please. Welcome. I want you to know you're welcome here. Participate, and you'll benefit a lot from that. Keep coming back. How many have been recently diagnosed in the last 6 months? Okay. We know about the trauma of that. Immediately you start thinking, I'm going to die. No, you're not, because here's what's coming up. How many have had prostate cancer for just a year? Not too many of us. Now, how many have had up to 4 years? Raise your hand. See what's happening? And now 5 to 10 years, raise your hand. See? Now, 15. I'm over 15. Anybody higher? I got 21. How many years you have? 7. I saw a hand go up. All right. 17. 11. And still smiling. We're happy guys here. And we don't have Chuck here today, but he has 28 years. Okay, let's do a treatment survey. How many are not under treatment but active surveillance? How many are right now active surveillance? Good for you. We'll talk a little bit about that. How many have had prostate surgery of all kinds? That used to be the gold standard. Now, how many have radiation? Raise your hand. See, that's the new gold standard. We'll be talking about that. How many are on what's called ADT, androgen deprivation therapy, also known as hormone therapy? Now, let me ask you, those that raised your hand, how many are on Lupron or that's been their ADT? How many are on something that's not Lupron? Raise your hand. Okay, what are you on? Zytiga, that's the advanced one. Thermagon. Okay. Firmagon, yes. Firmagon also means firm is gone. We'll be talking about that. So what else does ADT mean? Yes? Okay. Anybody on Trelstar? It's very similar to Lupron. What else besides? Yes, sir. What do you got for ADT? I can't hear you. Yes, Xtandi. That's the advanced one. Yes. What else you got back there? Okay, most of you are on Lupron. See, the problem when they talk about ADT, they don't tell you what it is and what all the other. Anybody on AVODART? Okay, you smart guys. Anybody on CASODEX? Okay, and then there's advanced versions of that. These are the less afflicting type of drugs. They deal with prostate other than shutting off your testosterone. And we'll be talking about that. But most people are on so-called ADT. It's Lupron, the injection. And there's a reason for that. Okay, how many are on chemotherapy or have been on chemotherapy? Okay. How's it working for you? Work? Good. How about you? Yeah. Okay. And who else? Yes. Okay, back here. Not too good, huh? How many rounds have you had? Uh-huh. So you gave it a go. All right. Any others on chemotherapy? Yes. Second. How you doing? Yeah. Prostate cancer is not highly susceptible to chemotherapy. Prostate cancer, as I'll mention, is a real tough cancer. It's very unusual in nature. It's fantastically powerful. Okay, we've already heard about some new treatments. I'm on an advanced treatment called Erleada. Anybody on Erleada? See, are you on Erleada?
No, but I just started a brand new one called Olaparib.
Which also brand name of?
Limparza.
Yes. Yes. Anybody on that? You're going on it?
I'm going to go on.
You're going to go on it. It's kind of off-label application right now. It's for ovarian cancer, but it seems to work.
Based on genetic testing they did for me to find out if that would possibly work for me.
Yeah. You'll be coming on that some later. Okay. How many have recurrence after their first treatment? That's the nature of the game here. If you live long enough, it may come back, and that's the good news. How many are undecided what to do next? I'm undecided. So I hope to learn something here from Gene, not from me, and maybe you'll learn something too. So I hope you feel welcome. Okay, today's agenda. Interactive open discussion. We want you to participate. Interrupt at any time. Raise your hand and we'll give you a mic. We're going to talk about lessons we've learned in School of Hard Knocks. How to manage our case. Okay, here's an agenda to trigger your thinking. And we'll go through these. This provides some degree of structure. And we're going to talk about why it's important and what to be tracking and what is asked, questions to ask your doctor, and then the treatment selection and side effects. How many are under treatment and have side effects? Anybody have side effects? Huh? Anybody have side effects? That's the nature of this cancer. I get them all. I can get diarrhea and constipation at the same time. So I'm the Mikey of the side effects business. Let's give it to George and see what happens. You notice I'm holding on here? You know why? Because I got vertigo from my cancer treatment. And vertigo means, see, they tested me out. They said, walk down there. I walked down there. Now come back, George. So I came back. All right, now walk down there again, but turn your head up and down. So I did, no problem. Come on back, George. I came back. She said, now turn your head sideways. Wow. So I have a problem here because I'm looking at you and then I turn my head and look at that. And I have to hold on for stability, see? And if I get up, then my brain actually functions. When I get up, I look for the door or where I'm going to go while I'm getting up. Nope, get up first, then turn your head, see? That's how I learned to deal with vertigo. And in the side effects for what I'm taking, they don't mention it. Well, side effect is falling. And side effect is falling. Number 2 side effect is fractures. Hey, you put the two together, you fall down, and you lose your balance, you fall down, you break something. But they never connect the two. And then later they did a survey on me, and they asked me if I had vertigo. I said, that's it, that's what I got. See, so the side effects are not necessarily fully descriptive in that folded up piece of paper. Okay. Any other agenda items you want us to put on here?
George, did you have the vertigo years ago, or is that part of your...
As a result of Erlita, brought the pills I'm on.
I had it too, and John, I think, experienced it. It's the benign paroxysmal positional, what's the last word, John?
BPPV.
Yeah, and it's an inner ear.
Okay, wait till you get a mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's an inner ear problem, right? Haven't you been told that? Or?
It's in the brain.
All right, yes, of course. In the inner ear, there are little, inner ear, not the, there are little stones floating around, and they're supposed to be in a...
Your buddy there had vertigo too.
Yeah, and they send messages to the brain about your balance, and that's how you get unbalanced. This guy's an expert. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a condition that's now permanent. Virus attacked my vestibular nerve on the right side. And you may think, oh, it's probably not a problem. Your balance is derived of vestibular system on either side. Think of those as gyros. That's how you stay. So you have 3 on one side, 3 on the other. This side is all gone. Your brain is constantly inputting data from vestibular system, hearing, sight, hips, knees, ankles. That's where your brain knows where you are anytime, anywhere in 3D, in physical position. So what's happening right now, just think of someone sitting here and talking in your ear constantly, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just talking. Your brain is trying to process that. That's what this nerve now is dead. So my brain spends about 70 to 80% of its time trying to take all of this input and try to understand why this part is off. So I take 3 different types of medications just so I can walk. And interestingly enough, when I sit down, I don't have problems because the offload of having to correlate hips, knees, and ankles makes it enough so that I can work. Now, everyone asks the question, was this because of chemo? No one knows. A lot of people that have this type of problem have had some type of treatment. Not necessarily chemo, but others. So that's where I'm at. But I'm also 11 years out from cancer, and I'm cancer-free at the moment.
Thank you, John. I got vertigo from Erlita, apalutamide, and because what that does, it affects your brain. It penetrates the brain barrier. Guess what else penetrates the brain barrier? Alcohol. Things like that penetrate the brain barrier. So mine is not caused by a dysfunction in the inner ear. It's just caused by the screw up in my brain because of Erlita. I've been off of Erlita now a month, and I'm much better off. Before I used to have to hold on here. Now I can just lean against this. So I'm getting better, and I don't careen about as much. Question here.
Actually,
We need a mic over.
okay, I wanted to say a few words about the newsletter because I think it's got some valuable things for you in case you want to read it. The first thing is we're still waiting for volunteers. We've been having this advisory in the newsletter on the second page for months now, and we still haven't got any that I've heard about. So we need help. We need help. Okay. The next thing is there are several articles of general interest that might influence how you manage your care. One is dealing with insurance claims. one of the things about reading about some of these advanced treatments is a lot of times the insurance company or Medicare will say, oh, I'm sorry, you don't get that because it's not covered. And this tells you how to fight that. So especially in some of these advanced treatments like Zytiga and other things. Actually, Zytiga is not so bad anymore because it's got a generic alternative. Then the other thing is it describes some of the records you need to keep so that you can fight these insurance companies, and that might be something you want to consider in keeping your notebook. And then there's some stuff about nutrients and how you pick a doctor. There's an article in here that says basically your percentage survival, the time that you get after surgery, for instance, is extended significantly if you get your surgery done at a location that has a lot of surgery, which is, of course, what we all expect. But this is the first time I've actually seen it statistically proven that when you pick a doctor, you want to go with a guy, particularly for surgery, but all the other treatments too, that does a lot of whatever it is you want to do. So that's just some input. And I think we also owe Bill Lewis thanks for his faithful writing of our minutes of our presentations, because it's extremely valuable for those of us who miss meetings.
Excuse me? I just wanted to quickly put something out there. I'd spoken to Gene on the 26th of July. I received a diagnosis of Gleason 9 totally out of the blue, and I am on a very fast track. I met with a radiologist, Dr. Weinstein, this week. I am scheduled for surgery on Wednesday for a prostatectomy with Dr. Ronald McIntyre, and I'm just asking if anyone else has had Dr. McIntyre to please talk to me after this meeting. I am scared to death, and if anyone has any guidance, I don't feel like I have time to fully evaluate what is going on here.
And your name is?
My name is Joel Poynton. Thank you.
Question here.
It was mentioned in the newsletter that you want to go and get service, at a place where they do a lot of them. I'm wondering, is there a place like that in San Diego here? Does anybody know?
Well, for radical prostatectomies. For surgery, radical prostatectomies, I think it's generally regarded that UCSD Moores Cancer Center does the most. And we've had a couple speakers from that agency come over here. Of course, some people think that surgeons or urologists like to cut and run, but if you've decided on surgery, that's the one you got to go to. These days, more and more people are going with radiation because it has less side effects generally than
Okay, Gene.
surgery.
I just want to mention that probably in the city of San Diego, the three top robotic surgeons are Dr. Kane at UCSD, McIntyre, and the lady. Carol Salem. That's probably the three top people. Carol Salem is associated with Genesis Healthcare. Got it. Okay.
Okay, we got a question in the back.
But video won't be kept.
One of my brothers just sent this to me the other day. I didn't realize ProPublica has so they're like a journalistic group, and they did a survey in the entire United States on, I think, 5 procedures and rated all of the physicians that were doing those procedures. The data's only through 2013, so it's a little out of date, but you can go in and see the results of all of the doctors in our community that are doing radical prostatectomy.
And what is the website?
If you go ProPublica, PROPUBLICA. You can look up hip replacements, knee replacements, radical prostatectomy. They have, I think, 6 different things that they took a look at, and you can actually go in and see the results. Based on their data there, this was in 2013, the best doctor in San Diego with the best results, the doctor with the best results was Dr. Salem.
Very good. Thank you for your contribution. Any other additions to the agenda? We'll be covering some of these in a little more detail. Yes?
I just want to say that my husband also had very aggressive GLEASON score, and we did, I'm sorry, yeah, okay. All right, my husband had a very aggressive GLEASON score, and we were first offered radiation, which we didn't do because the doctors, anyway, I won't go into that. Anyway, he had the radical prostatectomy. After the prostatectomy, though, the urologist kind of dropped the ball completely because his PSAs were climbing, and he basically said, do nothing at a 1.8 PSA. So we did go to UCSD to get help. And at that point, we were put on CASODEX and then Lupron, and his PSA came down to less than 0.1 and has continued to be that for the last almost 3 years now. Part of my question, though, too, was number one, it needs to get to oncology because he has metastases in his bones and his lungs. And we did find that because it was going to 1.8, the PSA was climbing to 1.8, the urologist told us that therefore it had metastasized. So then we got the bone scan, CAT scan, MRI, and it had. So that's when we went to UCSD to see an oncologist to help us get the treatment for that. So just make sure that if the gentleman is getting his prostatectomy, Bob's was very aggressive as well.
We'll be covering that in a minute. Okay? Yes.
Could I?
Sure.
The question was what have you learned? What I've learned is the doctor's word is not gospel, because once I had metastases, I asked the doctor over the phone, what's next? He said, I would do nothing. I said, well, are we talking months, years? More like months. Just do what you've always wanted to do. Well, that wasn't good enough for my wife. She said, no way. So we went to UCSD, to the Morse Center, and we got the proper treatment. But I wouldn't believe what a doctor says the first time. Maybe a second opinion is important.
Sure.
Yes, see, you're managing your case. You're learning how to manage your case. See, the thing about prostate cancer, well, let's go on and we'll cover some of those items. Why should you manage your case? You're the most important person on your prostate cancer. Your doctor has thousands of patients. He may read about you 10 minutes before you go in to see him, but he's only got a few minutes. And if you got questions, oh gosh, you're going to put them behind schedule. And so you're the expert on you. My advice to you, if you got, for example, side effects, tell your doctor that it really bothers me. Because when you talk side effects to an oncologist, yeah, everybody goes, oh, yeah. You tell them it really bothers them, or I'm really concerned. Oh, tell me a little bit more, see? And share some of the points. How you should manage your own case. How do you do it? There are choices to be made. Take time to think about it. Your personal goals in therapy are yours to live with. get a second opinion on all your diagnostics and also your therapy treatment decisions. Get copies of all medical reports and tests. They're yours. You paid for them. Your insurance did. Keep a file and each of the change and watch the changes over time. Take the file with you, your questions and right answers.
I wanted to add on to that. When I see my doctors for my annual, half-annual, and 3-month checkups, I always schedule the last appointment of the day, so there's no time constraint. And some of the doctors I'll sit and talk with for up to an hour with all my questions. I didn't bring it today, and unfortunately I forgot. I've got my notebook that George was talking about. That's how thick it is. And it's got every record, everything, every test. So if there's ever a question, we can go right to that page and we can discuss it.
Thank you. Okay. Now, our long-term members don't realize how much they've learned in this group. These are things that they've learned, like me, that they learned from their doctors. The first few, because I have a chart, where did I learn this? And the first few I learned from the doctor. He sat me down. But all these other things, the PARTIN tables, the ADT pretreatment before you have treatment, the targeted biopsy, and the CASODEX and AVODART, I learned in this room, not from the doctors. So I just want you to know there's a lot of learning that you're getting here that you don't appreciate where it comes from, but that's why we have good doctors and why it's good to have our patients talk about these things. Okay, prostate cancer is different from all other cancers. Why? One, it's slow growing for 85% of you. There's not a lot to worry about. There's no apparent, easy to detect causes of it. It's a very quiet cancer. By the time you find out you have blood or pain, it's late in the process, maybe too late. So that's why you need a PSA. Okay, diagnostic, early detection is so important. And if you really want to know the details, you're going to have to get a biopsy. That's how they look at the cells and so forth. It's in a very difficult region of the body. Brain cancer is an easy surgery. No, it's very sensitive and so forth, but it's an easy thing to get to. A surgeon told me it's one of the most difficult places. It's like trying to fix things under your kitchen sink. Think about that. It's not comfortable being down there. You got electricity, you got fresh water, you got dirty water, you got a grinder in there, food disposal. You got a whole bunch of stuff in there. And my TV runs through there and so forth. So you go down there nilly-willy and you're going to cause trouble. See, so you need a doctor who really knows what he's doing to go in there and find the area. So that's where experience is important. Most urologists, prostate cancer is only 16% of their patient situation. Most urologists do only 8 surgeries a year. So you don't want to go to a general urological doctor. You want to go to a specialist in prostate cancer. A lot of technology being developed. We're going through different series of now, and a lot of options. There's more than 18 different techniques for dealing with your cancer. That's why you need second opinions. Other differences. Cancer is the only cancer where the first specialist you see is not a cancer specialist, but a urologist, a surgeon. Why? Because your primary care doctor did a PSA and sees it's high, so he sent you to a urologist to do a biopsy. He's the guy that does the biopsy. Now you're in a surgeon. The surgeon has 2 things. He has a scalpel and he has a syringe. He's either going to cut it out or give you ADT, Lupron. That's why it's important to go see an oncologist. Ideally, go see a prostate oncologist, a specialist on that. Go up to Marina Del Rey. There are 3 wonderful doctors. They've got a book out here we highly recommend. They specialize in prostate cancer and all the different treatments. They don't do many treatments, but they do the diagnostics. Okay, here are things you should be tracking. Number one is Gleason. Here's a good guy who's got a Gleason of 3+3. This is a good news. This is 6. He's a good candidate for active surveillance. This is a measure of risk, aggressiveness, and the likelihood of occurrence. The two grade numbers add up to your Gleason score. The next measure is the stage. I have a T2C early on. There's T1A, T1B, T2A, T2B, T2C, then there's a 3, and so forth. Now, if you get a copy of the pathology report, it will tell you the Gleason score. It won't tell you the stage. The stage is where is the prostate cancer? Is it on the left? Is it on the right? And look at it, and you might find out, hey, it's on both sides. It's on the left and the right. That means it's a T2C. So when I saw my urologist, I said, what are we going to do? He says, we're going to do surgery. And I said, surgery? Well, what stage am I in? He said, you're a T2A. Oh, I thought I was a T2C. Well, where did you see that? I said, it's in the pathology report. I have it on both sides of the prostate. You do? So he read it. Oh, you're right. You do. But I still want to do the surgery. He's going to want to do surgery regardless. See, that's his training. I'll tell you what happened in a minute. Okay, now what we got here is, again, what you should be tracking. A T3 plus 4 is equal to a 7 is different from another 7, which can be a 4 plus a 3. See, this is the first is a low intermediate risk, and the second one is a high intermediate risk. The first number represents the grade of the most common cancer in your biopsy. So that first number, that's the most common. The second number is the next most common. So a 3 plus 4 is a 7, which is intermediate. That's a low risk intermediate. A 4 plus a 3 is a 7 also, but that's a high. Okay, a Gleason total score of 6 to 10 indicates the aggressiveness of the cancer. If you got a 6, boy, you're a candidate for active surveillance. A 7, well, you need to think about that. If it's above that, no. Any questions on the Gleason and the stage?
So you said it's important to measure the rapidity by which the cancer is growing. Yeah, so you can't get a biopsy every month. They only do that once, I don't know, every 6 months or something like that. So is the best measure of how fast it's growing is the PSA?
Well, first off, the PSA, once they find out, first off, a PSA is not a cancer detector. It's like your check engine light in your car.
Okay, so what's the best measure of how fast it's growing?
Well, I'll explain in a minute. It says a high PSA means you have one of the 3 I's, an irritation, an inflammation, or an infection. Prostate falls into that. Now that we know you got a high, we got to find out why. And generally, the best urologists will insist on a biopsy. Now we're looking, a specialist, a pathologist looks at the cell. I agree with you. You don't want to have a biopsy every time. But what the biopsy says, your high PSA is valid for cancer. Now we'll start really tracking your PSA rather than doing a biopsy. So the thing about a PSA is it rising or is it stable and so forth. So they look at what's called the doubling time. Okay?
What's a fast, what's a slow doubling time? Because you said 85%. It's slow growing. What's the definition of slow?
Okay, now if you're you're in the slow. Now we'll move to the fast here. I'll get your questions here in a minute. George, let me just finish this point. Okay, anybody here of a guy named Dr. Klotz? No one's heard of Dr. Klotz. Famous guy, active surveillance expert. He says that genetic features of grade 6 are completely different from higher grades. Completely different. Genetic analysis comparison Gleason 3 and 4 patterns. The two most common histologic patterns of prostate cancer have found that the molecular nature is profoundly different. Now, what does all that mean? Here it is. There's a big difference in risk between a Gleason cell 3 and a Gleason cell 4. The DNA is different. A Gleason 3 does not grow into a Gleason 4. It's an entirely different cancer. In fact, Gleason wanted a Gleason 3 or less not to be called cancer. The DNA is different. Gleason 4 is much more aggressive and have a much higher risk. So if you got a 7, watch the 4. Is that 4 increasing? That's why you need a biopsy.
I gotta disagree with Dr. Klotz. Because my first Gleason was 3+3. And 2 years later, I had 4+4. And the problem is the nature of the biopsy. Because I had a 12-point systematic. You haven't addressed MRI or looking at to where. We will. Because the basic problem is the nature of biopsy and the number of false misses and the number of false detections they get.
Are you disagreeing with me? Or agreeing? I can't tell.
Because the biopsy is inadequate. It doesn't get all the cancer that you've got.
Are you okay? You're on another subject here. Okay,
But
hold on.
What he says is you may have Gleason 3, but you also may have Gleason 4. It's not a uniform disease across the prostate. Just because you have Gleason 3 doesn't mean you don't have Gleason 4 somewhere.
We don't disagree.
Okay.
All right? I'm just talking about a Gleason 4 right now.
Yeah.
All right. So the whole point of all this is a biopsy is the only way you're going to know if you have a Gleason 4. They got to look at the cell structure, and we'll be doing that. So if you have a Gleason 7, that means you got a 4 in there, whether it's a low 7 or a high 7. Track the 4, not the 3. Get a biopsy. Now, how often should you get a biopsy? That's the controversy, and that's where you need to talk to your doctor. The whole point here is you need to get a second opinion of your biopsy. Is it a 4? Is it a 3? Is it 2 4s, an 8? Or like me, a 9? See? So that's what's the key is. And the thing is, a 3 does not grow into a 4. They're entirely different cells. Okay. Now we got a PSA, what you want to do, and I was touching this. What is your doubling time? How long does it take for double? That shows you how aggressive it is. Most people have a PSA that doubles maybe every 4 years. That means you need to not have a PSA test done every month or even every 6 months, because the frequency of the PSA should be less than the doubling time. My doubling time is 3 months. So I need a PSA at least 3 months. Lately, it has been doubling time is 2 weeks. My PSA went up tenfold in 3 months. So I have a very aggressive one that I have to track, and I have PSA once a month, if not more often. Okay, now we're going into the details, the nerdy stuff. How many have heard of PARTIN tables? All right, this is something the doctor doesn't talk to you about. Now, I'm going to suggest you do a PARTIN table on yourself, make a copy and take it to your doctor. Okay, the PARTIN table is developed by a doctor called Dr. Partin, who did statistical analysis of all these biopsies at the #1 surgical place in the world, certainly in the United States, Johns Hopkins. And so he has a record. That's where you're really doing a biopsy. Rather than through needles, you're looking at the prostate cancer itself and slicing and dicing it and looking at it. So that's a real valid biopsy. And it's targeted because it's the whole prostate. Okay. Google PARTIN tables. If anybody's got a cell phone, Google PARTIN tables if you want to. And the first thing that will pop up is Johns Hopkins James Brady Urological Institute. And what will pop up is this screen here. I'll show a blow up in a minute. And plug in your numbers. The first number here is your PSA. And it's by sectors. Here it's from 0 to 2.5. Your Gleason score here is 6. Clinical stage T2C or T1C. So this is a low profile guy. And then and then you click find results. And then you get this chart down here, which you can't read, but it has these 4 tables. One is OC. This is the organ confined, OC organ confined. The next is EPE, extra prostatic extension. It's outside the prostate. SB is in the seminal vesicle, and LN is lymph nodes. So if you plug in your numbers, if you haven't had treatment yet, then you get something like this. Look at the bottom part. PSA, we'll plug in 4 to 6, a low. Gleason score of a 6, that's from the Pathology Report, 6. Stage, T1C, is a shadow on one part of the prostate. It's not verified by the DRE. They can't feel it with the gloved finger in the rectum. So this is a very low risk thing. And then the fact that it's organ confined is 90% probability. Over a 20-year period of their data, it's 90% is confined. EPE, it's outside the prostate. It's only 9%. Only 1% probability it's in the seminal vesicle, and 0 probability in the lymph node. What's the treatment? Best treatments, active surveillance. Don't do anything at this time, but do get a PSA, do watch your diet, do exercise, things like that. This is a prime candidate. Now, if you plug in a number and you're different, let me give you an example. Just look at the red. Here's a guy with a PSA of 6 to 10. His Gleason is a low 7, 3 plus 4. His stage is a T2A. It's over on one side, a small lesion on one side of the prostate. What's the probability of it being contained in the prostate? Almost 60%. But look at that, the fact that it may be outside the prostate is 36%, and the fact that it's in maybe the seminal vesicle, 4 lymph nodes in this case is 2. What should he have done? That's why you need to make a copy of this if you're in this chapter, and take it to the doctor, because he probably didn't look this up. He's just operating on his memory, and he's going to probably recommend surgery. Then you say, well, sir, what about the other 42% probability? What's that? It's less than a 50-50 hope here. No, better than a 50-50, but what about the 42? They talk about it. And now, the blue is me. When I had recurrence, I went into the doctor. No, the first time. PSA was 14. The Gleason score, they kind of screwed it up and weren't for sure, so they ignored it. And then this is the guy that said I had a T2A, and it turns out I have a T2C. That's a big difference. Now, back in my day, they had a stack of papers. Now, I had to thumb through the papers and find this. Now it's on the computer, and you can go. And I asked him, well, wait a minute. If I have that, I only got a 12%. He still wanted to do surgery. You can always have radiation after you have surgery. Didn't mention the fact that the side effects of surgery were more severe than radiation. He never talked about the side effects. I did had radiation that was good for 10 years. See, so this is why it's good to manage your case. Plug the numbers in, go see your doctor and get him to talk about it. Now, does that help you on your question?
If you have the biopsy, how do you get the stage?
Well, you have to read it, and in there it will mention they did 12 cores. 2 on the upper left and 2 in the upper right. 2 in the middle, 2 in the middle, 2 in the middle at the end, and 2 at the end. Yes.
I never remember seeing
Well, you see, you got the numbers for each needle. You got the numbers for each needle in there. It's 0 or it's they found cancer. So then you add that up and you get these figures. See. Now the important thing that he was trying to make was you need to target that at the primary thing, and I'll cover that in a minute. But the whole thing about the Partin table is this tells you what the statistics are prior to treatment. After you've had surgery, there's a whole different game. But the point of here is we have more people on active surveillance now because it doesn't always work under surgery. And so let's see what happens, and then we will do surgery or radiation. Because surgery is like the forward pass in football. 3 things can happen, 2 are bad. You can have an interception or incomplete or a touchdown. Same way with surgery. You can do it too early and have the side effects you don't need, or you can do it too late, which means you got to have radiation, or you can do it right then at the right time. So this is where the Partin helps you out. Is it the right time to do it? Okay, now let's talk about the biopsy.
My question is just that, I mean, this place is great, okay, but you guys know so much more about it than I do that it gives me a headache, okay? And I've made changes because of what I've heard here, but you did mention about 5 minutes ago that the PSA measures irritation. Is that right? So it doesn't measure the presence of cancer cells?
It measures it, but not in the terms of its cancer. It's irritated, it's inflamed, or it's enlarged.
Well, if you don't even have a prostate, then the PSA is measuring the presence of the cells, isn't it?
If you don't have a prostate and you have a high PSA, yes, it's measuring the prostate cancer elsewhere.
Okay, and so if your PSA goes down to undetectable, that means?
Either you don't have cancer, or it is so low it's not important, or in my case, I have what's called undifferentiated cells that don't generate PSA. You can have cancer without a PSA.
Okay.
It's just an indicator, like the check engine light. You don't replace the engine, you just need to probe further.
And when I was just on Lupron, if it went down to below 0.1, they took me off Lupron, then it went up again. Now they're keeping me on Xtandi and Lupron, even though it's gone down to undetectable. Does that sound right?
Yes, and if you stop taking Lupron, it'll rise up again.
Okay, so.
See, lowering your testosterone does not get rid of the cancer.
Right, okay.
It puts it into remission, but it's still there.
Okay.
And that's why you still need to measure it, because sometimes Lupron stops working.
Right.
And
well, it did, and then they put me on Xtandi, so now I'm on both. Anyhow.
Question.
Thank you.
The tables that you just mentioned earlier, when did it come out? Is it very new study?
No, it's been out for 25 years. It used to not be on a computer. See, a radiation oncologist said, you might be interested because you're a technical guy, George. Here's the table, and he gave me a copy of it. And I thumbed through it. I got to thumb through a column of age, the PSA level, and so forth and so on, and I found the probabilities, which were low, that it was contained. That's why I didn't have surgery. See? So you can get this now. See, I don't know, anybody try it? Did it work? All right. So this is something that you only learn here, and it's something you want to take and try it out. Now, the other aspect here is after you have treatment, surgery or radiation, your PSA will never go back to the original alert level. You don't wait for it to get to a 4. If it gets to 0.4, go see your doctor. See, the whole thing shifts after treatment because now you're not capable of producing the antigen as much because you don't have a prostate or it's been disturbed by PSA. My doctor didn't know. He was looking for a 4, so he kept telling me, oh, your PSA is low. Well, it went from undetectable to 0.7. And I waited 2 years and it went to 14. Wow. 0.7 to 14 in 2 years. Once I was off those things, so that's why it's so important to get a PSA. We validated that the PSA is measuring cancer, not just inflammation, things like that. Okay, question?
After treatment, let's say radiation, how often do you recommend PSA?
All right, what's your doubling time? Do you know how long it takes for your PSA to double?
Well, after treatment, I'm less than undetectable.
All right.
So how often should
well, you
one
ask your
repeat?
doctor. I'm not going to tell you. Ask your doctor, and I would recommend every 6 months. Because it can start to, the cell 4 can start to take off again or whatever.
So generally, 6 months is sufficient, not 3 months?
Ask your doctor.
He's a surgeon.
Well, I'm sorry about that. See, what I did, I learned, because he kept saying it was low, it was 0.7, I didn't have it, and it was 14. If I'd waited another year, it would go to 2,000. If I went to another year, it would have been way up there, 10,000 or more, see? So that's why once it's on a track, watch it.
Prostate cancer diagnosis, nothing is for sure, nothing is 100%. The biopsy is not 100%. The gentleman talk about the PSA. What about the density? That is one factor we need to be looking into it. The density. You calculate the PSA divided by the volume of the prostate. That is the density, which is important too, besides the doubling time, right? So.
I can't hear you.
Oh,
the last part of your statement.
What did you do?
No, it was coming through. It was on. Did you hear it at all?
Not the last sentence.
He's asking about the density of the prostate cancer, not only the doubling time is important.
If you have a large prostate.
Yeah, it generates a lot of PSA. See, if you want to reduce your PSA, go have a TURP, where they clean out your urinary canal and remove a lot of the tissue. Your PSA will go down. Then it'll start back up again. So it's the size of the tissue that generates the prostate-specific antigen, PSA. So the larger your prostate, the more volume you get in your PSA. So you don't know if it's rising, whether maybe it's cancer coming back or you're having an enlarged prostate. That you can solve with a CT scan or an MRI.
I'm a chemist. The word density is totally... Can you hear me now? So the problem, a lot of this discussion is that you get the PSA, of course, from the total amount of prostate material, cancerous or not. So when you say you have a big prostate, you have, of course, a lot of PSA generating material naturally. So,
see, as I said, it's the slope of the curve. Is it rising or stable or declining?
right, but the slope of the curve is really screwed up by having a nice benign prostate so that it becomes visible like myself, where you've destroyed it first cryogenically and then it builds and you can see the doubling very early on. Seeing the doubling, I would say, in a lot of cases that are not as advanced for removal is going to be obscured by the, as he says, the density, but it's just the total mass. So my point is that the PSA, I had a PSA which was just going up normally, and then enough for my general practitioner. So then he sent me to a surgeon, and then the surgeon looked at it and said, okay, we'll watch it. And then it kept going up. And so then he did surgery, and it was very far reduced. And then after that surgery, it started at a very low value and just started shooting up. Well, ordinarily you would have said that was cancer. It turned out to be, from his probing, he stopped it with finasteride because it was benign hyperplasia. But that was just on the remaining tissue. And then 10 years later, the next cryosurgery, which I really shouldn't have done, knocked it down almost to zero. And there it came out, oh, so subtly smaller. But as you say, the doubling was very apparent early on. So this business of detecting the doubling does depend on the stage that you're in, and looking for it can be harder early on. So I completely agree. And I think looking for the doubling is very hard to do, or to catch it soon enough, because the doubling really only shows when we've done all these destructive things to the main prostate.
Okay. Let's go to this is yeah, as you if a frequent member, we're big on targeting your biopsy.
Another point on the PSA, the UCSD just put out a study where they looked at treatment for BPH. A lot of people get BPH before they decide they have cancer. And they found that most of the medications that are used for BPH can reduce the PSA by half. So when you say a PSA of 4 is significant, it turns out if you're taking BPH medication, a PSA of 2 might be significant.
All right. He just brought up a wonderful controversy. When you take AVODART, you're supposed to multiply by 2 for your PSA. Where that came from, I can never track, because I've talked to pharmacologists and other doctors about that. I know, and I have a study that proves it wrong, okay? It's a controversy, see? So, it's a controversy still. I know it comes out because Dr. Lamb and Schultz and all that, you don't get full agreement on that and so forth. So, ask your doctor. Okay, let's talk about a biopsy.
Back up to the need for the MRI. You had it there.
All right.
Talk about.
Okay, you talk about it.
The best thing you can possibly do for tracking your case is what it says right down there at the bottom. Do the advanced MRI fusion to locate and aim at tumors so that they can find exactly where to fire the needles. That's the best thing you can do, and that's the best thing you can do to keep tracking it. Do the multiparametric MRI now. If you find out you got cancer, you don't. All these guys doing active surveillance, they will take one every 3 months, 6 months. They will do this to find out if there's any development that's different than what's before. Then, if you find it's moving upward or something looks like it's the tumor's growing if you had one, then you do the biopsy.
No, I'm glad you did that, because the chances of missing the primary tumor, the mother tumor, are great, and you want to get that mother tumor first and do, I'll come back to you in a minute. The mother tumor is, no use dealing with those side tumors, deal with the primary one, and the thing about untargeted, it won't show you the big one that maybe you should be attacking. So that's why you do a parametric MRI that gives you overall picture of that. Now, question, sir.
That's exactly what happened to me. Let's talk about it. Oh, no, give me my phone.
Pass it back to me. That's exactly what happened to me. I was diagnosed 2 months ago. I was told that I should get a biopsy. I had read about the MRI. My doctors never brought it up. I'm with Genesis Health. And based on the MRI, I went in to have a 12-core biopsy, and they ended up doing 23 cores because the MRI showed where to get more cores, and that's how they found my cancer. I'd had a biopsy 5 years ago, 6 cores, found nothing. Okay, you're fine. I probably wasn't. This time they went for 12, and based on the imaging and the MRI, they went for 23. They could have gone for more. I don't think I have a prostate left because they basically punched a lot of holes in me. But that's how they found 3 cores over on the right side that came in at 50 and 70%. And they would have missed this, I think, with a 12-core biopsy. So I think the MRI, and I've told friends of mine who were signing up to do a biopsy, have you had an MRI? They said, no, no one's ever brought it up. That kind of scares me.
No, we'll get to you in a minute. I had a similar situation, but mine was before MRI got to be perfected, is what color Doppler does. And I went to see Dr. Bond because of this guy here. And the color Doppler it shows you the tumor. And Dr. Bond went and did 4 needles. That's all I needed. I didn't need 12 or 30. I needed 4. And sure enough, that's where it is, right there. And that's what we're going to zap and so forth. So see, you don't need 12 or 30. Because what happens if you do some of these tests, it'll show you all the little ones. But if you show the main one, the others tend to shrink and so forth. So, okay, your question, sir.
Well, it's at least it's working now. A comment on the biopsies is that because the finding the index lesion and also finding how much cancer is in there is so important, it affects the PARTIN tables. And all these, the PARTIN tables, the GLEASON score and everything depend on finding the cancer and finding any of the stage 4 cancers. And so the biopsy is very important, but I wanted to mention I've got a low-grade prostate cancer right now. And so I'm trying to decide what treatment to go with, but I have to have very good data in order to do that. And so the biopsy is very important. The first biopsy I had was a truss biopsy, which is basically kind of a blind biopsy. Like you were saying, it has a systematic way of placing the needles in and finding, what's in general in the prostate. But it's very easy to miss stuff that way. And so with the different types of biopsies, you get increasingly better results finding the biopsies. And the lowest would be, the truss biopsy. And then after that would be a guided biopsy. And there's different ways of doing that. You can have a cognitive biopsy, and you can have, say, the colored Doppler transrectal ultrasound biopsies, which help. But then you can have an MRI, and then the doctor will look and see if he sees any visible cancer, visible tumors, I should say, and then he can go in and do a biopsy, and he knows where to focus. The next one would be a fusion biopsy, where they have a MRI that's done, and then they combine that with a live truss biopsy. And so the truss biopsy is guided with an overlay of what the MRI is previously seen. Better than that would be a in-bore, where they do it in the MRI, and they use the live MRI to do the biopsy, so they can actually see exactly where they're going. And that's the problem with the fusion biopsies, is there can be misregistration. And so you think you're going into the right spot, but you don't see the actual live real-time imagery, and so you can misregister and not get exactly where it is that you were trying to hit. So that's a better one. If they don't have that available, there's called transperineal mapped biopsies, where what they do is very similar to brachytherapy, where they use a brachytherapy template, and they very systematically go in and do a grid and hit, say 20 different points. And that's better than the other biopsy because it covers more area. The goal being, from what I can tell, is you're trying to find the very worst spot. You're trying to find the worst place in your prostate that has the highest degree of cancer, because that will tell you how serious it is, and then you can do genomic testing on that sample and say, okay, this was the worst spot. How genetically bad is that cancer? And you can see how aggressive the cancer is. So finding that is important. Then after that, you have the possibility that none of your imagery has been able to see any of the targets. And so there's still very small areas of grade 4, but you can't see it on any of the MRIs or any of the imaging methods. And so you still need to systematically go and look throughout the prostate to see if you see anything else that hasn't come up in your imagery and you don't have as a target. But the key thing is being able, to see what might be the most suspicious area and then go for that during the biopsies.
Are you a STEM?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's talk about biopsies in the pathology. This is in one of the literatures that we have, and it's a classic, Gleason 1 through a Gleason 5. When I first saw that, I said, well, I don't need a pathologist. I can, if the cells look like that, I can differentiate. Well, professionally speaking, this is called a cartoon. It doesn't look like this at all. See? So ignore that, because here's what it looks like. It's pink. And the first one is a Gleason 1 or a 2. You see normal cells. That's a 1 or a 2. And then the next one, I don't know if they realize they did this. This is a 3 or a 4, thinking they're similar. No, the 3, as you learned here, a 4 is different from a 3, but that can look like a 3 or a 4. What is the most dominant? Is that a 3 plus 4 or so forth? See, the point of that one there, it can be a 6, a 7, or an 8, depending upon how the guy looks at it. It's very subjective. Eventually, this will all be computerized. And then down the bottom is a grade 5. That's what I got. See? But what this says is get a second opinion. And Gene will be talking about that, the phone number to call, because it's totally subjective, and you want an expert in prostate cancer to look at that, and that's not your urologist, that's a pathologist. And by the way, you can read this in your pathology report. What you ought to do is, like John does, take it with you and go line by line. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? And so forth.
Go through it in 5 minutes.
Okay, now, you have a rising PSA, or what? Where is the cancer? I mentioned 85% is slow growth. You have a low-level PSA and a Gleason of 6 or less, you're a prime candidate for active surveillance. What about the other 15? You have a rising PSA, a short doubling time, a Gleason above 6, or a recurrence after treatment. What do? You need some diagnostic. Do you know where the cancer is? Does your doctor know where it is? Some doctors don't need to know where it is. They'll just give you a whole pelvic x-ray, which is radiation is bad. So what normally they do is a bone scan, technetium-99, a PT CAT scan, or an MRI, a standard MRI. Now, these are the current tests. They're non-cancer specific. It doesn't say, bingo, you got cancer. It's a PSA, we've already talked about. A bone scan, the old technetium, which is, in my view, worthless. If you're old, it will show you black dots all over your body, where you have arthritis, where you broke things, and so forth. It's a joke, almost. A picture of your black dots all over the place. It's not cancer specific. A CT scan is very good for bone, and an MRI scan is really great for soft tissue, but it doesn't say cancer. It shows shades of gray. Ooh, there's a dark area over there. That looks like cancer. We need to do a biopsy. It doesn't say cancer. The only cancer-specific thing on this list is a biopsy. And that's why urologists love to do biopsy, because that's their business, and so forth. So what's going on in new technology?
Gene.
Here, okay, this is now you're T3, and you have cancer penetration. Is it spreading? Where is it? What can be done about it? Yes.
On your previous slide.
Yes.
The PET scan, though, can be, my understanding, I've had about 7 PET scans. How many have had PET scans in here? I believe, depending upon what type of PET scan, sorry, I believe that depending upon what type of PET scan, it can be very much cancer specific.
Right. Okay, that's what we're coming to.
Oh, you're coming to that?
Yes.
Okay. Why didn't you tell me that earlier?
Yes.
Sit down.
Now, I want to go back here. The normal diagnostics of a few years ago were not cancer specific. So they're speculating, but that's why they want to do a biopsy, even with this in the bone. Gene has had a lot of bone biopsies, and they get mixed results and so forth. So the new technology is something we're really hoping on, and these are cancer specific. In some cases, it shows you in red, almost with an arrow, prostate cancer. They're prostate cancer. Carbon 11. There used to be acetate, which I had. You can't get it anymore. It's not covered by insurance. It was done by our great speaker, Fabio Almeida. He's out of business.
George,
you can get it done at Mayo, which is a choline carbon 11.
George, excuse me, we're researching now. They're still doing the carbon 11 acetate somewhere in Phoenix. We haven't located who.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're trying to find that out.
But it's still not.
That's exactly right.
See, when you have these are costly. And they're not covered, some of them are not covered fully by insurance. So that's your first question, is it covered by insurance? Okay, and then there's Axumin, and the PSMA, and there's some others on the horizon. We had hoped to have a doctor come in here, and we've had a little delay on that, but we want to cover this specifically because their effectiveness is determined by what is the PSA level and so forth, and where it is. They vary so much. But the solution is coming on the horizon here, if not already here. I've had an Axumin, you've had 2 of those, and you have 2. See, so, all right, so a number of you have had a variety of these. Larry's not here, I was going to ask him to speak. He's had 18 scans. He's a STEM. Okay, now it's time for Gene. Now we'll get off all the specifics, and now we'll have more touchy feeling. I want to tell you, this guy is a great friend. I wouldn't be alive today if I hadn't come in here and met him. I owe him my life, and my joy, too. We have a fun trip up to see Dr. Lamb, and he's a joy to ride with, and he's a good driver, too.
Okay, I've got this on. Can you hear me okay? And I can assure you, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't found out about this group either. So I want to back up just a second, because any people here done the gallium PSMA test? That of all of the tests that are available now, is probably the best. Axumin is available locally, and it is paid for. PSMA, gallium PSMA is not. Do we know of any place that's doing it now that we can get to?
UCLA.
At what cost? How what?
$2,800.
Okay, all right. So that's. But that, you. Yeah, I've heard both. So I just wondered if we have anybody that can specify that it still is going on at UCLA. But you do have to come across for it. I had an appointment with Dr. Kipper, who's the guy we had hoped to speak to us at some time. I had an appointment with him last week. He says they're coming up with a newer kind of imaging that's even better than the gallium PSMA, and he thinks it'll be available within a year. So let's just keep ourselves going so we can get to these things that can really find exactly where our cancer is, and so we know how to deal with it.
My last visit with Dr. Lamb, he referenced a test that he hoped will be approved in 2020 as an improved imaging diagnosis.
Did he tell you a name or not?
No,
All right.
Just to give you a point of reference.
You know, just keep your hopes up, because each time they come out with one and when it finally gets approved, it really is improving what we did. Because that's the reason I've had trouble my whole life, is that I didn't have the imaging available for me, and I chose surgery, and it was already outside. And we would have known that if we'd had the imaging. So enough of that. Okay. Here's just some good questions that you can think about asking your doctor. Because if your father had PSA, what would you do? Some of them won't even answer you, but try to do it. How many have you treated? Again, extremely important. What's your recommendations? Okay, and alternatives. Don't let him just say, well, you need surgery, because you've got to get somebody that will help you with options. That's why we like the guys up in Marina Del Rey, because they don't only talk about options. They don't say, we do this, we do that, we do that. And we're getting some better ones down here in San Diego, but they're coming along better. You want to know what the possible side effects are? Good Lord, we'll go through that in a while. And will they stay forever, those side effects? And can they be treated? Ongoing, all right? On follow-ups, here's what you want to do. How am I doing? He may not tell you. He'll just say, you're doing okay. Well, am I? What's my level of risk? Is my cancer really aggressive? I didn't think mine was. Boy, it is. And what do the test results mean? Ask him to tell you. He'll just tell you, well, your PSA is 7 and whatever questions he comes up with for you. Tell him, what does it mean? And what can I do now? What's the next step? And when should I get my next PSA test? That's a question that comes around here a lot. And what is my doubling time, which George talked about a lot. So you want to continue to keep doing your PSA tests, whether you've yet had treatment or if you've already had treatment. My personal thing is I want it every 3 months. 6 months works for a lot of people. Annually works for other people. You've got to get it set up here on what your brain will let you be comfortable with. Now, get a second opinion. It's hard to do because the doctor you're talking to doesn't want to get rid of you. It's hard to do that. It happened to me. I said, oh, I know what to do. I'd like to get a second opinion. The doctor gave me a doctor reference. Turned out to be his partner. Okay? So that helped me a whole bunch. Okay? And this is what Georgia called about it. And be sure to get a second opinion on the biopsy of the Gleason 6 or above. By the way, pretty soon they're not going to call a Gleason score 6 cancer. They're going to find some other name. Hold on a second. There's the person to call to get a second opinion of your biopsy. Get him a, somebody get him a mic.
So your biopsy's been done, let's say by...
Wait.
So your biopsy's been done by UC San Diego. I don't have the cells anymore, obviously. They've got them. This Dr. Epson is going to get those, or he's going to read something?
Yeah, I haven't found anybody that would not send them for you.
Okay. Right, I don't know where they are.
To tell your doctor that you want to have it sent to Johns Hopkins for a second opinion. Okay?
Question.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Fortunately, yes. Go ahead, sorry.
You disturb me. I don't remember my question now.
We'll be here a while.
No, second opinion. If you are confined to a service provider, okay, Kaiser, Sharp, is it okay to ask a second doctor in the same office? I mean, another urologist?
Preferably no.
No, go outside, right?
But if you're really, really tied down, yes, and that's exactly what I did. I asked my doctor at Sharp for a second opinion. He gave me his partner, and guess what? He told me the same thing. I think who's been there recently? The doctors we keep talking about in Marina Del Rey. If you can't get outside of your insurance coverage, I think the initial visit is what? You know, remember, Chuck? To go up there and get a thorough checkup on them. Okay. But anyhow, be sure to get a second opinion on your biopsy, and you'll find out they're different. And I'm going to tell you something a little later about PSA scores. That certainly, after you've had an invasive treatment, select options and quality of life effects. We'll talk very definitively about that. Ask the doctor for his and hers recommendations. What we just said, avoid doctors in the same HMO and hospital, and seek out independent opinions. Here's really, really important, and it's really hard to do, especially for those that have just been diagnosed. Don't rush your decision. You feel like you really need to get something done. I did. I couldn't think of anything other than getting it out of my body. So don't rush your decision. Gather information like you're doing here today, and the decision should be yours, not the doctor saying you need to go do that. Okay? The first step there is don't take the quick step towards surgery. That's exactly what I did. And some do, because the oncologist is always a surgeon, and that's their business. Believe me, they're getting better at it. They are more and more now talking more about active surveillance, maybe referring you on to someone that you can talk to about radiation as an alternative and doing other things. They're getting better. I believe they are. And learn about the quality of life factors of whatever kind of treatment you get, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. You do one treatment, find out, boy, I wish I hadn't done that. Well, I sure as hell wish I hadn't done surgery because it was already out. Okay. Here's the thing that our guys are really doing well at, and whenever George does his survey, is your best action can be active surveillance. And again, really question your doctor seriously about the appropriateness of doing active surveillance. 3+4, probably you should do that for a period of time, but it has to work up here too, because you can't just say, well, yeah, I'm going to do active surveillance. And pretty soon your brain says, but damn, I've got cancer in there somewhere. I think I ought to do something about it. So your mental attitude towards it has a lot to do about that. But more and more, and we see it all the time, people are working with active surveillance, and the major parts of that is the multiparametric MRI. We started with one way back when, hopefully, and that told him, well, you better do a biopsy. You got the results of that. Maybe that was the 3+4, 3+3, 4+3. You probably literally started thinking harder about treatment. But the point is that try to think about not doing anything, because I can't think of any treatment that any of us have done that hasn't had some kind of side effects, which is going to be a huge list here pretty soon. So some are more temporary than others, so we'll talk about that. Try to get your doctor to talk to you about the side effects of any treatments that he's recommending. And they will generally make us softer than the real life. Here we go. Take a good look at those things. These are treatment side effects, and this is not all of them are following one kind of thing that's happening, but these are all the different kinds that can happen. Impotence. How many people are suffering that right now? Show me your hands if you're not too bashful. Certainly me. Okay. Incontinence. Certainly me. Diarrhea talks about that. Hot flashes, that usually accompanies our famous ADT. And I'll talk specifically about that as what really worked for me, because Dr. Lamb told me, get to the damn gym and do something. And it works. I've been on Lupron probably, I think, 6 years in a row. I only tried to stop once and my PSA went up. So I've been on Lupron for a long time, and I don't have any of those things, and it's because I exercise. I'm sure of it. When I go to bed at night, once in a while, I feel a little flush on my cheeks like I'm embarrassed. That's the worst it's ever been once I started exercising. Breast enlargement happens a lot with different treatments, especially with the CASODEX type drugs. But that can be rectified easily with what they call surface radiation. I did CASODEX as my first treatment. I felt the nipples getting really tender. I went to saw Dr. Munt at UCSD, and they did 5 shots of radiation. Nothing ever more developed. It won't go away, but it won't get worse. Okay, but there's things they can do about that. A lot of people have a problem with weight gain, or just the opposite. Okay, urinary frequency. Well, I got that problem. A lot of us have that. Penile shortening. This is one thing your doctor will never tell you that it's going to give you surgery. It will get shorter. And if you're starting with little less, it can be 1 to 2 inches difference because they're removing the prostate there and closing things up. So it will happen. Some people have heart effects. Some of the medications can really have, if you have some kind of heart issues, you can they can affect you. George has those kind of issues. Lupron really nailed him badly. Fatigue happens with some of the newer drugs. It certainly happens with me. The Xtandies and the Zytigas and I don't know if Erlida that hit you. Erlida. Let's take a show of hands on that. The drugs you're on, are you getting a fatigue feeling where you just don't go? Yeah, it's pretty general, I'm sorry to say. But again, go to the gym, give it a whack. It works. It does work. We will have, especially with ADT, you'll have some bone loss. We have a drug called Xgeva that you can take that helps lessen that. Libido loss, yes, absolutely, with the hormone therapy. I found out that that was a lot less important than I thought it was. My wife and I are such good friends that, hey, we still love each other a lot, okay? So not being able to do that, but I'm going to ask that question too. How many people here are successful in using the Viagras and the Cialis and so forth to help you get along? I did for a while. It worked. But as you get further along, generally that doesn't give you the assistance that you would like. So just know that I found out at least that my relationship maybe better. Okay. A lot of people suffer from depression, and we're trying to find some speakers to come in and talk to us about that, to help people that really get depressed, because some of them will put you down, especially if you're doing a treatment and suddenly you start to come back and you're going to fail that treatment and you're going to need to do something else. That's probably the worst time when that will be a problem for you, or the very first time. When you're told you've got cancer, it may set you out there, because that's a nasty word. Wish we could think of something different, but it's all going to end up being the same. Erectile dysfunction, that basically follows in the libido, certainly is my problem, but again, you know, something you can live well. Okay, so I don't know that we need to do a whole thing on this.
Can I interrupt here? I've been looking at this slide, and maybe you want to talk to me afterwards. I have every one of these, every one, and some others. Memory loss. There are medications that don't have these problems. I was on statins and some other stuff, and I have memory loss. Number one cause of old age memory loss is being on those statins. And there are statins that don't cause memory loss. This guy, doctor I mentioned, I said, "Oh, I'm an engineer. Are you an engineer?" I said, "Yeah." He's thinking of quitting because he can't remember things. And he gave me a different prescription. That's why I emphasize, tell the doctor it's really bothering you, because they hear all this, you'll go away. It doesn't. I got pneumonia. The stuff I'm on causes pneumonia. You have fatigue, terrible exhaustion. You're susceptible. You lose your immune system. So I was 10 days in the hospital with pneumonia. I have weight loss. From 5 years ago, I lost 40 pounds. I'm trying to gain weight, and it's a problem. And so forth. So I have a number of these things, and I have solutions to them and so forth. But this is very critical. You get depressed, you get used to being depressed. And what I learned is to crank myself up in the morning and say, all right. And for example, I will tell my wife when I'm feeling really good. I'll say, honey, I feel really good. Wow, that's good to hear. Because normally she thinks I don't feel good. So if you feel good, tell your wife. Tell your kids you're feeling good. Because they worry about you, see, and that makes you feel better, and so forth. So I've had all of these, and with different degrees of treatment and so forth. Breast enlargement. I had the x-rays, you know, for breast enlargement. It didn't work on me. A lot of this stuff doesn't work. Some of it does. But the cumulative effect can kind of drag you down. And so that's why these meetings are important for me. I get encouragement and enthusiasm and things like that. So just coming to the meetings will make you feel better, okay? So, because I'm somewhat unusual to have, because I'm Swedish. Anybody else Swedish? You know, but Italians and Irish don't get these things, all right? That's my theory. There you go, Gene.
Okay, all right. I'll just ask you, would you like to see the show of hands on each one of these? Okay, I think, okay. But here's a really good chart for you to take a look at as what likely side effects you're going to have for these kinds of treatments. Okay, and I'll just take a while and go through them. With both surgery and radiation, those negative problems generally will go away after time. But that amount of time varies with everyone that has that procedure.
Just as a reminder, these PDFs will be on the DVDs if you purchase it.
Yeah, if you buy the DVD of this meeting, all of these slides will be a part of that. You can pick out all of these slides if you want. And I notice the ADT issues, okay, because they all certainly happen, and they can all be dealt with in different degrees, as George was mentioning, and that you really need a good doctor to help you with those. And I'm going to say it again, I say it all the time, exercise helps you get rid of almost all of those, okay, except libido. What? Active surveillance, okay. Active surveillance, and actually that anxiety probably should go across the board there, because I think it hits everybody, especially when you get your first diagnosis. And then you get it right after you've had your treatment. You really get it, I think. So just know these things are possibly going to happen, and then talk with your doctor about the best ways, or ask these guys around here who have felt that issue and what they've done about it. I keep telling you what I did is exercise, and believe me, it worked for me. Okay? And I needed exercise anyhow.
Gene?
Yes.
I noticed a lot of people taking notes early. We should have probably brought that out earlier, that the slides are available on the DVD as a separate file, so you can actually, that's on the case of all of the DVDs that we make from this meeting, and our videographer just does a great job of that. So if you purchase a DVD, you get both the interaction and the speech of what's going on, but you also get the slide presentation by itself. And a lot of people were already taking notes. So, but we might have a run on, I was anticipating that we might have a run on this particular meeting, because there were so many comments and everything. How many people think they might want a DVD for planning purposes for our videographer? They would be out within the next 3 months or so, within the next 3 weeks, right? Is that right, Bill? Available from us?
Generally about 3 weeks, or at least be available at the next meeting.
Yeah. So how many again? Let's see the hands.
I have a question.
I'm seeing about maybe a dozen or something like that. Maybe. Yeah. More than usual, Bill. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hold it real close.
The question is the side effects taken your age group? Like if you're in your 80s or in your mid-60s or 70s, what would be, say if you're in the 80s, is it higher for surgery than radiation? That would be a main question for me.
Yeah, I think generally the older you are, the more affected you are. Okay. So that everything relates to the seriousness of your treatment, about what you've had to have done. Yeah, they won't even touch you if you're over 80. But if you're over 80 and you want something done, tell them you want it done. I'm 80. There's one over here.
I just had my MRI done, haven't done the biopsy. Are there any side effects of the biopsy or no?
Generally, no, other than the pain that you experience there, but there's no side effects.
Right, okay, all right. But the pain will go away after a while, I guess, right? And then how much information can you get from the MRI report without doing the biopsy?
Well, from the MRI report,
right.
Yeah, you can get, if it can sit, make sure it's a multi-parametric MRI and some of these kinds that we've talked about. Make sure you ask for that, because a lot of them will just give you a standard MRI, which may not show anything. But it will actually show where it's located and how big it is. And that's the most important thing you want to know.
Right.
Get your first one, that's your baseline. And if you're okay for no treatment, then you say, okay, I'm going to come back and do the same thing in 6 months and to find out if anything's changing. That's the value of it. There's another one over here. Mike. Mike, please. Have one that swings around.
I just wanted to mention how aggressive people have to be in managing their own situation. 10 years ago, I had a biopsy and it was indeterminate cells. 2 years ago, I had an instance of blood in the semen and an increasing PSA. My doctor referred me to a urologist who talked me out of having a biopsy. A month ago, when I had the MRI, that area was exactly the same area that was involved. And now I'm looking at a Gleason 9, and the doctor's response was, well, you didn't get that overnight. You know, and so people really need to be aggressive. I have had to fight for every appointment, every scan to get everything done within the shortest amount of time. And the support that I've received from the staff within that urology department has been next to nil. Although very technically good is what I'm being told from the Da Vinci robotic surgery. When it comes to the emotional support and the type of support in getting appointments that you need quickly to help you understand where you are in the scheme of things, that's not happened. I am with Sharp, and Dr. McIntyre is my doctor. He is technically good. I would not consider him a people person. When I went to get my biopsy results, before I sat down, he said, well, you got cancer.
Yeah. And that's where this group helps. All the information you're gathering here is what you really need to have your doctor tell you. And I got to tell you, if he's not doing what you think he should do, go get somebody else.
But there's not time.
There's time. Yeah, there is. We have another question.
I just wanted to say, I know another gentleman in here mentioned that he was in a health care HMO and wasn't sure if you should get a second opinion with the same grouping. I can just say, I love Kaiser. I've been there myself as a nurse for 49 years. Their urology department, at least the care that we got was subpar, and we did go to UCSD to get the second opinion. It's not that expensive to get a second opinion at the UCSD. There's a lot of good urologists at Kaiser. I'm not saying that, but we should have gone on to an oncologist with the metastases. So I'm just saying UCSD is a great resource for.
Oncology is the right answer, and I just don't understand why. For prostate cancer, you start with the urologist. But you can be in charge of that. I want to mention at that same, hold on a second, that while we're on that subject, that many of us are a part of, I assume, ARP, and ARP works at United Healthcare for insurance plans that are the best of all. And those of you that have seen and heard me talk before, I've had almost every kind of treatment there is possible, and this is how much I've paid, except the latest 2 new drugs that I've had. So we have a lady that we deal with, and I'll give you a name. If you're interested, come see me. I'll give you the name that she deals with, helping people get the kind of insurance they need at a cost that's acceptable to them. Her name is Tricia DeLeo? DeLeo is the right name, Trish DeLeo. And she's helped a lot of people get insurance that works for them. So just wanted to mention that. Go ahead. Huh? No, she couldn't make it.
Regarding guided MRI biopsy, who do you recommend in San Diego? Mostly.
MRI?
Guided
MRI.
Yeah.
There's a group called Imaging Healthcare Specialists. Imaging Healthcare Specialists. There's a Dr. Schwartzberg who has spoken to our group twice. You can download his DVD from our website, but you call them and you will have to have a referral.
Right. Just a quick question. The gentleman over there. You mentioned about 23 needles biopsy. Is that, I mean, for you, or is like a general recommendation? Usually it's 16, 12, but why 23?
Based on the MRI.
I'm sorry?
Based on the MRI, they kept seeing an area that needed to be punched and punched and punched.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to mention to you, because you've said a lot about PSA, and when Don was diagnosed, his PSA was very low. It was 4 something. It was 4 something, his PSA. It was very low. But he found out he had a high Gleason score, aggressive cancer. It had already metastasized to multiple places, and it was still within the normal range. So we've been to Dr. Lamb throughout this course of treatment, and one of the other tests that he runs is called a PAP. I don't know if any of you have heard of this PAP, but it's also a tumor marker test, and he wanted to run that in addition to the PSA, and it's called, it's called prostatic acid phosphate. That's what it stands for. And he's about the only doctor. We've been to Scripps, and we've had it run there, and they have to send it out. And the same with UCSD. They had difficulty even understanding what it was, but it does measure, it's more sensitive than PSA. So you just might watch that if your PSA is low and you're not really sure you want another check on the tumor markers.
Thank you. That's good info. Okay. So here's what you knew to help develop a positive approach, because we can be so negative. I've got cancer, oh my God, how soon am I going to die? Join a support group and talk with other patients about their treatments and their decision process. It really, really helps. And check the library. We've got a good library out here that's got some really good information for you. Remain positive, and that's hard to do. When you're trying to make a decision, you've got to be positive, but try to get your head around it, because look at that, 95% prostate cancer survive 10 years if treated. I'm 17 years out, and I want to tell you, when I first got the news that my PSA had come back, I really thought, and I was 63 at that time, and I thought, well, boy, I'll never even see 70. I found this group. Okay. Enough said. Okay. Best tool is knowledge. So stay with us. Read our newsletters. And we just keep saying it again. Just tell your doctor to tell you what it is. If he doesn't tell you, find one that will. Okay.
So very early on, he was asking the questions, how old are you, how long have you had it?
Yeah.
And it was also how many have gone with radiation, how many have gone with surgery, and then how many people have had a recurrence. I was surprised at how many hands went up when they said how many have had a recurrence. Can they ask the question, how many have had surgery and had a recurrence, and how many have radiation had recurrence?
All right, let's do that.
Yeah.
We can survey here for anything.
Well, I'm not being facetious. It's just that I thought if you had surgery, it was over, but I guess it's not.
No.
George, wait 1 second. Understand one thing. The people that are attending this meeting are people that have had issues. Generally, if they had success in treatment, they aren't coming to the meeting, are they?
Yeah. See, we got a biased group here. Okay. We got people who tend to have occurrence, who are really concerned about it, and have a positive attitude about getting help and support. See, so how many have had surgery? Let's just do surgery first. How many have had surgery? Now, of you, if it hasn't recurred, lower your hand. Okay. If it has not recurred, lower your hand. So for these surgery types, they recurred, right? Okay, let's do it on radiation of all kinds. How many have had radiation? I've had that. And how many have had it recur? Well, lower your hand. Keep your hands up, it's still got it. Okay.
Well, one thing was I had salvage radiation after it came back. Yeah. So how does that count in? But it's gone now. I'm almost on 11 years.
See, we get a high content of people who have had surgery and it came back. Generally, it comes back within 2 years. Because you shouldn't have had surgery in the beginning. See, and we're having fewer of those now because of the PARTIN tables and things like that, and active surveillance, see, so. But the whole theme is get a PSA even after you've had treatment. See, I didn't, and I suffered from that.
My question is, what type of radiation treatment people had? There's
all right, you want to do that? Radiation? All those who had radiation, raise your hand.
Well, it's also, there's brachytherapy, there's...
I know, so let's do it. How many have had radiation? And one is the most common, is external beam, IMRT. Keep your hand up if you've had that. Okay, how many have had brachytherapy? Anybody?
Have seeds, planting seeds.
Seeds.
One.
Okay. Let me ask a similar question on surgery. How many have had surgery? Raise your hand. And now, how many had robotic surgery? Okay. See, this is the new wave. That.
Proton.
Okay, proton. How many have had proton? That's the new wave.
Is that the SBRT?
No, it's entirely different proton.
Where is that?
SBRT generally is used to do spot treatment after it comes back. I just finished it one Friday.
Okay, anybody want to do a survey, another survey on the subject? Huh? Okay, you.
I would like to know how many people are using some sort of treatment to reduce the side effects of ADT. Like, is estradiol, patch, or ointment still used at all? Effexor is an antidepressant that is used. What have people found to be most effective in helping them reduce their ADT side effects?
Let's ask the question, how many take something after ADT to make relieve stress and all that? How many?
Yeah, I do.
I do. Huh?
Yeah, I'm on actually Cymbalta instead of the Effexor, although it was Dr. McKay was mentioning Effexor. The reason for Cymbalta for me was, and that gets rid of the hot flashes. I have a little bit of warmth once in a while, but it knocked out the hot flashes. And what they say is that the hot flashes are worse the younger you are, and I doubt anyone beats me here. So an antidepressant, or excuse me, an anti-anxiety medication is great for getting rid of the hot flashes. I'm also on Wellbutrin for depression. But the Cymbalta also apparently has some slight side effect of improving incontinence, and that was why the choice of that one. I can't say for sure whether or not that's helped, though.
All right, yes?
Here you go.
Okay, I'm not sure I really know this. So one radiation that you didn't mention, and it may not be in that class, but there's some kind of systemic radiation. Is it a 177 or something? Dr. Lamb does it?
177?
Yes, I just wanted to know how successful has that been? Anybody have anything reoccur with that, or is it not in the same?
I'm sorry to say our incidence has been very poor. Chuck has done it. He had to give up.
Really? Okay.
Larry Weaver had it. I know 2 other guys had it. They're both gone.
Okay.
Okay, so you have to be very selective in figuring out if it's going to work for you. That's the key to that. And I think Chuck would verify that.
Okay. Thank you.
I will also say that it depends on where you are in your disease. If you're getting down to where you don't have many choices, the lutetium-177 was a good alternative for me, even though it didn't work.
Any other general questions? We're about ready to close up here.
Okay, I have one more slide. Okay, closing comment I found effective for myself. I had a very good friend. He died suddenly 2 weeks ago, pneumonia, bingo, dead. His wife went to walk the dog, came home, and there he was on the sofa. He died. And he's my most valuable friend. And he taught me 3 things. They both begin with an E. One, if you have an affliction like you got, and I got, is endurance. Do something active to endure it. Just so you got pain and suffering, endure it. Diet and exercise, which this guy does, and so forth. Talk to others, help others, participate as a volunteer. And then also seek encouragement. Encourage yourself in the morning, encourage others. This is an encouragement group, right? It's a support group, but we encourage you to manage your case. And then lastly, if you're going to do it with enthusiasm. Tell your family when you're feeling good, and let's go do something, let's go have some fun, all right? So I hope you had fun today, and I hope you're encouraged, and you're going to endure this thing and successfully. So come back next month.
Yeah, we'll be sitting here if you want to talk personally about anything.